Hi everyone, this is Cyrus
And Amanda.
and welcome to the Gowns and Crowns podcast. Amanda and I have spent years in the pageant industry and we want to do a podcast to hopefully help you on your pageant journey. This is episode 1. So Amanda and I are professional pageant coaches and we get asked all the time, how do you find a pageant coach? So even though Amanda and I would like for you to use us, we know that not every pageant coach is perfect for every contestant or that it's convenient for every girl to get to you. So what we try to do is we help give some pointers on how to find the right person for you. And we also try to point out red flags to show that somebody may not be the right person for you. So Amanda, you started your pageant journey when you were 14 years old, freshman in high school. How did you find me?
Thank you, Lord, that I found you. I was friends with a girl who was in my high school pageant. So I did my high school pageant because it offered a talent, and I danced growing up. And I always joke around with Cyrus and say that was back when I had talent. So I did this high school pageant because a friend of mine from church, she was a year older, she competed and they offered the talent portion. And lucky for me, this one was sitting in the audience that night because I had no clue what I was doing. He came up to me afterwards and said, "Hey, I think you've got some great talent. I'd love to help you. If you're interested, here's my card." Held on to it. The next year rolled around and the rest is history.
We just needed a new dress and to get rid of the banana clip. But she had the talent. She had the talent.
Yes, I really did use a plastic
like
banana clip to put my hair up an evening gown.
So anyway, we try to keep people from the banana clip on stage.
Yeah.
But right there, that shows that one of the best ways to find a pageant coach is word of mouth. Somebody who has used a particular coach, and maybe you can discuss with them why they're good, or why you like them, or why they worked for you. Lucky for me, Amanda and I have had a long journey, a long friendship. A good client friendship. Amanda ended up doing pageants for 20 years. And to my knowledge, I'm the only pageant coach you have ever had.
Ever, the only one that I ever wanted. This one had my best interest at heart from the get-go, and that was why I stuck with him for as long as I did. And then, well, many other reasons, but also, too, I got a best friend out of it as well. But I never really had anyone approach me in the past to be a coach. I did have people who were in the industry who didn't know me as well, who gave me unsolicited advice. And that was something that took me a little bit of like, hold on a second, what's going on here? But thank goodness I had him to say, I'm here. If you ever need to take that advice, we can if you want to. But whatever you want to do, that's up to you. And thankfully, I kept listening to my gut and trusted my heart. And this one always had the best ideas and best interests at heart for me.
So the first question that always comes up with most parents is, does my daughter need a pageant coach? Do they need one? I've been doing this for 30 years. Maybe 30 years ago, if you were the prettiest girl in the room, you could win a beauty pageant. But pageants over the last 30 years have become so much more than just a beauty pageant. They showcase talent, they showcase physical fitness and ability. They do showcase beauty, but they also showcase intelligence, where you have to be a total package to win a pageant. You can't just be one of those things. And I think if you're a parent and you want the best for your daughter and you're going to go down this pageant journey and you want your daughter to be competitive, then heck yeah, you need a coach. I know when I was growing up, my dad was in the military, but when he wasn't there to teach me and there was something that I wanted to do, he always got me a coach. Mm-hmm. Now, it took 3 coaches to convince them that I was terrible at tennis. But
you played tennis?
Mm-hmm.
How did that
Well, no, I didn't. That was the problem. I went through 3 coaches,
okay, I was about to say,
and it was all, I was terrible. I was terrible. But it took 3 coaches to convince my dad that I was never going to be a tennis player. But I had coaches for other things. So to me, having coaches in my life was natural. Right. So yeah, I mean, football players have coaches to help them through their sport. So why wouldn't a girl who wants to be in a pageant, why wouldn't she have a coach? The other thing I think that is important is you have to do your research. Now with the social media that we have out there, you should be able to Google or Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook or just about any app to find out about this pageant person if they are credible. So I think what makes me credible is I've been in the industry for 30 years, the pageant industry, but I've also participated in the fashion industry, the entertainment industry. I've done movies, I've done commercials. I also did competitive speech tournaments for 3 years, so I had a coach for that. I've also...
You did modeling.
Yep, I did modeling, which is what Amanda, we'll get to her credentials in just a second. But I think what makes me a great pageant coach is that I'm well-rounded. It's not that I just have experience in just one area. And I think all of these things have come together that if you look at my resume, you would at least put me in your top 5 people to maybe look to see if this is somebody that I would want my daughter to work with. I've also had extensive experience judging from here to California. A lot of people say, oh, I'm a pageant judge. Yeah, well, you judged one pageant. That doesn't make you a well-rounded pageant coach because you judged one pageant. Now, I think what makes Amanda, and I'll let her talk about that, Amanda did pageants for 20 years. I can tell you that I've sat on the other side of the table and I've judged girls for that long, but she's actually talked the talk and walked the walk. So tell me a little bit about your pageant career, because it started in high school.
It did.
But it led you all the way around the world.
Little did I know doing that, Miss Freshman in high school would lead me where it did. But thankfully, it did create the pageant bug, and the monster was created and came to life thanks to this one. But I wouldn't have done any of them without his consistent and constant and true support all the way through. So after I did Miss Freshman, I later went on to do Miss Sophomore and Miss Junior. And I graduated early from high school, so I wasn't able to do my high school pageant, but I was able to do my college pageant as a freshman and won that. And then from there, I thought, why not take this just a little bit further? So I did my first, what we called our big girl pageant, because I had to go on my own that weekend, do my own hair, my own makeup. I had to wear a swimsuit for the first time on stage. I did that. That was Miss Sun Fun. Got first runner-up.
Which was huge in its day because it was supported by Hawaiian Tropic. So it was a huge... The winner got to travel the country for the year promoting the Grand Strand. And it was all paid for by Hawaiian Tropic.
It was amazing, representing Myrtle Beach and the Grand Strand area. And I got first runner-up in that, and I called him... He was on vacation. I called him crying, and he's thinking, oh my word, what happened to you? Did you fall on stage? Did you just not do it completely? I got first runner-up. I mean, I'm so glad that he talked me out of wanting to.
And I asked you, I said, where are you going? And y'all were going to the after party. He
said, what I want you to do, pull yourself together.
Tell him what I really said.
He really said, suck it up. And I can't believe you just told me that. But that's what a true friend and a true pageant coach who wants you to move further from this and learn something from this. That's what I needed to hear. Although I didn't want to hear it, I needed to hear it. And I'm so glad that I did, because he said, go in there and find someone who can do something for you. And I did. Found someone who...
You found a fitness coach.
I did. I found a fitness coach who later became my coach to help me get ready for when I did Miss Sun Fun, because yes, I did do it again, and I won that time. And that, from there, took me to the journey of doing Miss South Carolina USA, and I met the right people through that. I got the experience that I needed by doing that again and finding the right people to help me in those areas like fitness, to help me keep going and to see what I could do and not hang up the heels. And I found someone who could help me progress further and see, okay, let's try this again.
So Amanda was Miss Lake Murray USA. Then she won Miss South Carolina USA. And then 4 months later, I think it was 5 months later, we were in Hollywood, California, and you were competing for Miss USA. and you were first runner-up to Shandy Fennessy, who was an amazing Miss USA, who went on to become first runner-up to Miss Universe. And then that opportunity led Amanda to move to New York and continue her modeling career. Amanda, you mentioned that you graduated early.
It was not because of my grades that they were that great that I was able to finish early. But I, as a child, was told in first grade that I needed to lose weight by my dance teacher. And weight is something that's always been a struggle for me, my whole life. And it really became an issue when I was in late elementary school, all throughout middle school, and then to the beginning of my high school years. And when I found pageants, I found girls who felt the same way that I did. I didn't feel so alone. They struggled as well. It was nice to see, well, not nice, but it was comforting to see I'm not alone here. So flash forward to once I started doing the pageants, then that led me into the modeling world. I started to lose the weight.
You found a fitness coach.
I did. I found a fitness coach thanks to pageantry. It introduced me to the person who helped me do it the right way and the healthy way. But once I started to lose the weight, I continued to lose friends, I guess you would call them, in my life. And I went from being picked on and being called the fat girl in class as a child to having a few friends there for a while to losing them all again. So that's why I graduated from high school early, because it was a terrible experience with the bully situation that I had, because I had no confidence at all. But thanks to the things that you taught me, and thanks to the things that I learned through competing in pageants and being in the modeling world, I learned how to dress confidently, to put on this shell to make it seem like I was confident, but on the inside, I was still trying to get to that confidence level. And that was the one thing that I wish that they would have given me the chance to say, I'm really not. If you just give me the opportunity, I might look like I'm stuck on myself here, but I'm really not. I just wish you would give me a chance. So that was why I graduated early from high school, was to get away from the mean girls.
So let's bring it back to, so how does all of that help you find the right coach? I guess what I'm trying to tell people is when you're researching people, you need to look out people who have, like I said earlier, they've talked the talk and walked the walk. This kid has been on stage. She's had to stand in interview or sit in interview. She's had to do the swimsuit. She's had to do it all. I remember one time I was telling a client, because Amanda and I do work together, and I was talking about something, and Amanda was like, She said, until you've sat in a cold chair, tan to death with your thighs sweating, you don't know what you're talking about. Which is the truth, because until you've actually done it, So I think that is what makes Amanda and I a great team. But how do you go out there and find someone else? So you've done your research. I think as a parent, if you're looking for somebody, your daughter, it is up to you to interview those people, or before you go and see them, or at least book at least one class to see if this is going to be a right fit for your daughter. So number one is you can Google and do your research. You can get personal information from other people who have used a particular coach. I think another way that you can find a pageant coach is if there's a pageant system that you're competing in. Sometimes they'll make recommendations for coaches that are good for their system. I think Amanda and I are well-rounded enough. We work with a lot of systems, but there's some coaches that I think that they're very specialized with just one system. So if they're great with one system, but your daughter is in this system, that's not necessarily going to be the right pageant coach for you. I think another way to help you find the right pageant coach is to talk about the red flags. So one red flag that you already mentioned is people approaching you and giving you unsolicited advice. I think it's one thing when I approach a client, if I see somebody and I don't know whether they have a pageant coach, I don't go up to them and give them unsolicited advice. I give them my card and I let them make the decision on whether they want to come and visit us or not. So I think one red flag is anybody who walks up to you after a competition or before a competition and just starts giving you unsolicited advice. Well, that's not just a pageant lesson, that's like a life lesson.
101, please don't do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that's one red flag. I think another red flag is people who have glossy resumes of what they say their credentials are, but they really don't have those credentials. And it's really up to you as a parent or a young adult, if you're doing this on your own, is to research that person. Did they really do all of this?
Right.
Did they really do all of this? I think another red flag is when you work with one pageant coach and they tell you, now you can't work with any other pageant coaches unless you can only work with me. If you're not going to work with me, you can't work with anybody else. I don't think any pageant coach that has their best interest of their client at heart would ever mandate that a client couldn't work with more than one person. I think it's important sometimes for girls to be well-rounded. You may be a coach that you've offered everything you can offer to them, and they need somebody else. As coaches, I'm not a fitness coach, but I can recommend 10 for you.
Right. And that's something that's super important. And you are so loyal to all of the clients. And I'm not just saying that because I love you and you're my best friend and my partner, but what I find disappointing is when you've poured your heart and soul into someone and they go see someone else and either they don't tell you or they go and they work with that person one time and it seems like that person gets the credit when you've done
all the work.
And it might not be the girl's fault, but unfortunately the perception seems to be the reality sometimes. And I feel like, of course, if someone ever approached me that I felt like I needed to go see, you've always said, please just tell me and go. I never felt that way, but sometimes, like you said, I mean, having children in sports and in dance, they have multiple coaches, they have multiple dance teachers, and they need that to kind of work symbiotically sometimes, but sometimes you don't need that. But I just appreciate that you are open and honest with all the clients and say, if you do need to go somewhere, that's okay. I completely understand. I don't like it when it hurts my heart for you when you pour your heart and your soul into someone and someone else either says you can't work with him anymore and they don't, or they take your years of expertise and credit away from you. You don't deserve that.
Because they worked with them one time. I think you can, I don't do it for the credit, but I think when you're in a profession, you got to give credit where credit is due. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to be recognized for your work.
Absolutely.
And when you've met a girl and she's 7 years old and you're the one who mentored her through the braces and the bad skin and the 97 different colors of hair they wanted to have until they were 15 and they finally realized that isn't working for them. Right. Or you've got the weight gain and the weight loss, but you mentor them through all of these things. And here they are at 17 years old, and they're the prettiest thing on the planet, and they meet with one other person one time, and then that person wants to take credit for all of the work you've invested, and then they're awkward and don't know what to do, and they allow that to happen.
That's exactly...
And that's where I think a parent should step in and say, we give everybody credit.
Sure, and there's room for that. It's okay. We know how to work as a team. We don't mind other people being a part and sharing the spotlight with them at all.
I have a magnet on my refrigerator that says there's room for everyone at the top.
Yes.
And I just think that's kind of the way I go into it. And like you said, it isn't as much about credit, it's about giving people the respect.
Absolutely, that's the word.
They deserve for what they pour into you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing. Again, if you're looking for a pageant coach, you're going to look for someone who's open-minded enough to know that they may have to work with more than one person to get you where you need to be. Mm-hmm. I also think that if you are a parent, I keep saying parent of young adults because I work with all of them. I also think it's important if you're working with somebody and it's not working, it is nothing personal. You just have to say, this isn't working, or this isn't working for my kid. And then you have to find somebody who can work
With them,
with
right.
them, or that they work well with. Like I said, Amanda and I work together. I have girls that go to just Amanda because they're comfortable with her. I don't need them to come to me because I know Amanda's teaching them all the right things. But I think you're in some situations where people would demand that if you're not working together, then you can't work in that environment with them. I think another red flag is when someone is researching when someone's researching a pageant coach and maybe you've talked to someone who had a negative experience with them, you can't allow that to become your basis for whether you hire them or not.
Right.
I think you should give anybody that you're interested in the benefit of the doubt and at least meet with them for yourself. It's funny how we all want to take, when we tell somebody, oh yeah, they're great, but they'll also take somebody's word at, well, no, I didn't like them. They didn't do well
X,
for
Y,
me.
and Z.
Yeah, but then you find out that they were missing class or they wanted to do it their way and only their way, and they didn't want to take any advice. And they're like, well, all of a sudden the real reason you didn't like them is because they were trying to get you to do they were trying to work with you in a way that was going to make you a better pageant contestant, but you kind of thought you knew it all.
Exactly.
So, and one thing about it is too, I'm big on affordable coaching. I think there's a lot of coaches out there. You've got to look at what their price range is. If they're charging you $300 an hour, then they better know what they're talking about. If somebody's charging you $300 an hour and they're young and they've only won one pageant, you have to know that that is not a credible way to go.
Still go check it out if you want to, but
Yes.
just understand what you're getting into if you go and compete at your pageant and it's not what you had hoped for.
I don't think parents understand that different coaches charge different things.
Right.
And you're hoping that people have the integrity to price themselves for what their expertise is. But you have a lot of people who put the price tag on their ego and not their talent. And I think you have really got to pay attention to, am what I'm investing in this person, as my daughter getting what I'm paying them?
Am I getting that back in return?
Yeah.
Right.
Am I getting it in return? I know Amanda and I keep our rate affordable. I want girls, I want girls from high school, middle school. I want all age groups to be able to come to me. As long as I have a full schedule, I'm happy. But I try to be competitive, but I also try to be realistic about not every girl can afford a $300 pageant coach.
Right.
But sometimes you're going to find your future Miss USA at a high school pageant. It isn't somebody who's actively doing 1,000 pageants and doing this. It's just the one random girl that you're going to run across, just like I met you. She came to me because she wanted to do one high school pageant. And I was like, wow, get rid of the banana clip. This girl could really do something. We also failed to mention that Amanda was first runner-up to Miss USA very young. And then a couple of years later, Amanda wanted to do another pageant.
I did. I didn't feel like it was done.
And because you said, I never got to compete on an international level. So she competed for Miss Earth, South Carolina. And then you went to Laughlin,
Nevada.
And
right outside of Vegas.
you won Miss Earth USA. And then you ended up going to the Philippines for 30 days and competing for Miss Earth International. And you were top 16.
Top 16.
Out of 109.
Countries.
Yeah, so that was pretty good. And we still talk about that. I got to go. So we still talk about that being a good experience for you.
Absolutely.
Mentioning all these pageants that Amanda was in is another thing about a pageant coach. When Amanda first started in pageants, she was in a different system, which I don't feel like we have to name it, but she was just kind of spinning her tires in it. You need to find a pageant coach that can assess what you're best in and direct you toward the pageants that you can succeed in.
Right.
Yeah.
They feel is right for you.
Yeah, if
And
you
it takes trial and error sometimes. Sometimes you do have to try a couple of different pageant systems to see, well, first of all, is this for me? Do I want to keep investing in this and doing this? And then if you do, then finding the right one. And that's a win in and of itself, I feel, because you get to try them all. And then when you find that one or the few, like I found the USA system and the Earth system and also Mrs. Galaxy. I was able to do Mrs. Galaxy as a married mother. You have to try a bunch of them sometimes and not give up until you find that right one.
I think it's important to find a coach that helps you not just know what you're best at, but to help you set those goals. Like I tell every parent when they come in there, pageants are just like any other hobby. They're expensive. So you want to make sure that you're, as my dad always said, getting the biggest bang for your buck. And you just want to make sure that if you're investing in the right direction.
Right.
And sometimes there's a girl that wants to do a pageant. She just isn't going to win because it's just not what she's geared toward.
Not the right fit.
But you can spend thousands of dollars trying to shove that circle in a square if you want to, when there's a square right over here for you. So I guess what our point with Amanda and I on our first episode today was just to tell you a little bit about who we were, why we feel like we're qualified to call ourselves professional pageant coaches. We do have over 3,000 success stories to our name. Like I said, I've been a coach, and I view it from a judge's chair. Amanda's been a contestant. She can tell you what it's like to be on stage and be in an interview setting. And I hope we've given you some pointers on what you should look for if you're looking for a pageant coach for yourself. Just remember, it should be fun. At the end of the day, it really, really should be fun. And you really want people in your corner that are in it for you, not just in it for themselves. Amanda?
Couldn't have said it any better myself.
So we hope you will stay tuned for future episodes of Gowns and Crowns podcast. We always say that we are a world of beauty and a universe of possibilities.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.